Hello, good evening and welcome. Welcome to Rangers Radio. Join myself, Oxshire, on the show this evening is the one and only Linda and my mate Jaffa. How we doing? Linda, Jaffa?
Evening, Oxshire. Evening, Jaffa. Evening, everyone. I hope you're all keeping well.
Hi, Ox. How you doing? And hello, Linda. Thanks for having us on again on Rangers Radio.
Should it not be really? Hello, Linda.
You
Always
better not go
hello.
down that route.
I know what you're like, Jaffa. Hello, who's your lady friend? Hey, that's another story. Right, how we both doing? Who's going
Doing
first?
great. Doing great, Ox. Yep. Keep staying positive. Just try to get some realism and some integrity to everything that's been going on. Obviously, the game the other night, but it's past now. Got to look forward.
Right. Realism. Explain.
I think obviously I know a lot of the fans, and I'm included, and I know a lot of all Rangers fans were all cheesed off the way the Champions League has panned out. But as I've heard you talking, and in reality, really, what were we looking for? What was the best outcome? Third, UEFA Cup, Europa League, and I think even at that, after the draw came out, when you saw who was in our draw, Napoli, Liverpool, Ajax. Come on, I think you've got to be realistic now. Okay, and I get I know getting beat and getting put out is hard enough. Some of the results have been hard to take, and I think that's where a lot of us are leaving with questions in the manner that we've been beating some of the games. And I'm sure as the show evolves tonight, we'll have a chat about that in more depth, Ox.
Yeah. So that's your realism. And how are you, Linda?
Yes, I'm well. I thought I had a bit of optimism about the game the other night because we had played very well against Aberdeen, and I know it's a different competition, it's a different standard of opponent. I thought we might have went in and maybe got a wee bit of pride back, Ox, maybe sneaked a draw. I think our win was maybe a bit of an ask. When I saw the starting team against Ajax, I thought, God, we'll be doing really well to get anything out of the game. I agree with what Jaffa said there, and a lot of that. And you've got to take into consideration, everything that's happened. You can't use injuries and people being suspended as an excuse for anything, because we had some poor results at the beginning of the group stage when we had a lot of our so-called better players available. But that team against Ajax does all for me when your centre-back pairing is Sands and King. And don't get me wrong, they did okay, Ox, but an 18-year-old and a 20-year-old playing out of position, I think that puts everything into perspective. I
know, I wouldn't have looked out of place playing alongside they two, Aye, the young boys are learning their trade. You've got to be fair. I think some of the criticism of Leon King, a boy that's setting out in the world of football, probably played about a dozen first-team games as injury cover. Let's be honest, if everybody's fit, he's not getting a sniff, Jaffa. No. And he showed some great potential. Yeah, he's made mistakes, but that's what happens with young boys. You put a young boy a bit of wood for the first time and tell him he saw it different ways. He's got to learn, isn't he?
Ox, it happens. Making mistakes is part and parcel of football. Connor Golson's an experienced centre-half. We don't agree with that. Connor Golson makes mistakes in every game. Richard Gough made mistakes in every game. Terry Butcher made mistakes in every game. It's just part and parcel of football. I think Leon King's done unbelievably well. And you're right. And under normal circumstances, he's not getting a sniff at that first 11. He's not going to get that shot. James Sands. I think we all now have seen the James Sands has got something to offer our club. He's really good in the middle of the park. He's done reasonably well at the back when he's been asked to play that. But look at the guy. Look who you're up against on Wednesday night. Stephen Bergwijn. What did they sign him for? £28 million from Spurs. and he couldn't really get a game at Spurs. You know, I think you've just got to. Sometimes, listen. Yeah, we could have done better in Wednesday night. There's parts of the game, and I'm sure we could cut the points here.
The goals we lost, the first two goals.
Tavernier getting caught out of position, but listen, I would put another point on that. Tavernier, he is out of his. He did get caught up the park, you know, in the first 3 minutes of the match. But you're hoping, and under normal circumstances, you're hoping that your right-sided centre half is going to sweep that Ox and come in behind you. You know, and at this moment in time, that understanding just isn't there, or they're not working on that stuff. You know, it was so simple. You know, the ball came from Bassey at the back. It got played into the middle of the park. The guy does a wee shimmy to the left and then turns right and then hooks the ball with his left peg in behind Tavernier. Got to do better at stuff like that. And it's not the first time it's happened. I think we all know that. Listen, no criticising James. It wasn't James Tavernier's fault what happened in Wednesday night. In Tuesday night. It's a team performance.
No.
Tav still stood up and scored the goal. So, you know, I love James Tavernier. I think he's a great player. But he's got his limitations. Let's put it that way.
Aye, he's not playing well this new, mate. I think he's injured. I still think he's injured, Linda. And I also think because of that, he's maybe lost a bit of confidence, you know.
Yeah.
But we'll talk now in a minute, Linda. Go back to Leon King. What was your take on it?
Okay, he could have done better, obviously, for the first goal. I mean, Jaffa's obviously touched on that you know, Tav get caught out with that ball just in behind him, and that's happened a few times to him, you know, over the seasons that he's actually been with Rangers Ox. That's not a new thing. And obviously, I don't know what happened with young King, because when you see the first goal back, I think we're all quite in agreement that the guy kind of hit it, but I don't know. He seemed to think it was going a certain way, and then he kind of moved his body out the way, young King, and then Alan McGregor wasn't expecting the ball to go there. But I think before that, Ox, there should have been they should have moved out on him, and it was the same with the second goal as well. You know, there
was similarities to the Livingston goal, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, you know, they should have closed them down and not given the guy the all the time and space, but. I thought he recovered all right after that, but as I said, you know, I know there's the old phrase: if you're old enough, if you're good enough, young players are good enough to come into other teams. But I just think that, you know, he hardly made any first team appearances last season at all, and he's been thrown into the deep end. And I agree with Jaffa about Sands. I liked him on Saturday when he played in the midfield, Ox. I thought he offered us something really good in there, and we want to see more of that. But there's another game where he's had to play centre-back against Ajax. So I think we've got to stick by these young players, Ox. I don't think it's a case of throwing them under the bus. We've got to stick by them. They're going to make mistakes. They're only young, they're learning, but let's give them a chance.
Yeah, I don't know about you, Linda, but I made the odd mistake when I was 18.
Just a few.
See on the Leon King, sorry, Oxty.
We could maybe do a special on that one night, Jaffa.
It would need to be a special after 10 o'clock by the watershed. See on the Leon King, as Leon King, the player, Ox, that lad's got it. And he's going to go far in the football world. You don't get in Rangers first team. And by the way, a lot of the time he doesn't look out of place, and that's the best compliment I can give Leon King. I never think he's only 18. He doesn't. He's playing at Champions League football. He's playing with Glasgow Rangers. He's carrying himself brilliantly. I know he's come through our academy. Liverpool are interested in him. That should tell you everything.
Yeah. So we lost goals and confidence, and there was times in the match we done okay. See when they get the goal chopped off, and we rallied a bit, and we had them struggling. They were tired. They maybe took their foot off the gas, whatever you like. We huffed and puffed, and we made opportunities. Obviously, with the Alfie miss plus the penalty kick. Then we try to get the equaliser and get caught with a sucker punch. I can live with that, Linda. If you're trying to get a goal and you get caught out at the end of a match, yeah.
Yeah. I've got to be honest, I thought we had a real chance of getting the 2-2. I mean, the penalty, obviously, that was a really good run from Matondo when he came on, and I just couldn't believe that Alfie didn't score the chance before the penalty, Ox. That summed everything up for me. And you know what? Alfie should be sitting with 2, maybe 3 Champions League goals. It wouldn't have made any difference to the results of the matches, Ox, but for confidence and everything else, he'll be disappointed he's not, as I said, he's not got off the mat in the Champions League, because there's a couple of chances he missed over in Napoli. He should really have been tucking them away as well. But, he charges down the goalie. He'd been trying to do that a couple of times, and I thought he might actually get something out of that. He just couldn't get his foot round it, and it really just did kind of a summed up the night for us, didn't it?
I don't think it summed up the night. I think it summed up the 6 nights, if I'm being honest.
Oh, you've got to laugh. Otherwise you'd greet.
Right, Jaffer, I liked your realism. I get it. I'm as disappointed as the next guy. Maybe because we don't show our emotions. What we say on and off air are 2 different things, Jaffer. I get the disappointment. I get the embarrassment, particularly the Liverpool result. But it's tinged with realism. Our expectations, we talked when the draw was made, we went, oh, yeah,
I mean, when the draw was made, Ox, I stand by my point. In all honesty, as Rangers fans, what did we really expect? You're not going to win the group. We're not a Champions League team in the respect that I know we played in the Champions League and we qualified, fair and squarely, but this was our first time back in it for nearly 10 years, 11 years. In all honesty, Liverpool and Ajax, any one of those 3, I mean, Ajax will be gutted that they didn't get through. I mean, they didn't expect to get walloped with Napoli home and away, but they did. Napoli are the team to be, they'll go far, and potentially you could be looking at the winners if they keep up their form. And their brand of football is something to behold. It's great on the eye. We're just not at that level, Ox, and I don't think any of us really. The only thing I would criticise is the actual results themselves and the manner of the results and the way that we performed. The Liverpool result hurt badly. That was a tough one to take, and I think it was really even harder to take in the fact that we were in the game up until the first 45 minutes. But injuries got us on that game again. Golson, Jack, changed the game. Sands against Napoli at Ibrox. If you remember, we were well in the game until James Sands got sent off. It's not been all doom and gloom, Ox.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sure we'll rectify it next year. We'll win some Champions League games at home, and we'll smash that hoodoo that nobody's won one since 2013, representing Scottish football, Linda.
Yeah, and ironic as well that after a really sort of disappointing Champions League group stage, we still managed to get the most coefficient points for Scotland this season. I mean, that just shows you, I don't know if it's definitely not any consolation, but it just shows you how much Scottish teams have struggled this year.
Yeah, and what's galling as well, if we're honest, a certain team only qualified because of their coefficient points. Hearts, maybe when they get into that competition, if it wasn't for their coefficient points, Jaffa,
Is that the same team that were phoning up the British Embassy this morning looking for some help because they'd got a boot in the homos?
I don't know what you're talking about, Jaffa. You watch different videos for me.
X-rated ones.
No, I'm not Linda. Me and Linda sit and watch the Waltons.
Good night.
Oh, no, can't take that. Well, as we're as in it with the coefficient, but just come back to that, the coefficient point. I read some information today, and I don't know if this is correct, Jaffa, but it could be that your 10-year coefficient gets you some money in these competitions. So the teams that are there regularly get a bigger slice of the pie. That's how it works. That's Liz Truss's economics, grow the pie. Right, and so I think we get about 2.2 million because of our 10-year coefficient, Jaffa, yeah? So we're not in it for some of the time.
Mm-hmm.
whereas a team across the city get about 7 million. So there's a 7 million bridge it's going to be just before we start.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, a 5 million bridge is just before we start. Obviously, we'll close that gap because we'll go ahead of them the way things are going, yeah?
Yep.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, some of their coefficient drops off, I believe, Ox, after 5 years. I think there's a percentage of it drops off, and their Champions League, I think, was the last activity was some more than sort of 5 years ago. Anyway, I don't follow them. I know you don't, and I know Linda doesn't, but it's relevant in this part of the conversation. But yeah, listen, if we win the league this season, we're back into the Champions League, and that's all that matters, Ox. And that's got to be the target now. It's a matter of getting back together, establishing some camaraderie within the squad. Hopefully, getting back some injuries. We've still got 3 games left before the World Cup starts.
Yeah, these are big games. I mean, I'm disappointed we dropped to 2 points to Livingston. Never seen that coming. I'm still expecting us to win these 3 games. I think it may be a bit more difficult than I imagined because of the circumstances, the squad, Linda.
Yeah, absolutely. The way that it's shaping up just now, you've got 10 players or something like that and unavailable due to injury just now. We'll obviously get Lundstrom back. But I think a lot of the disappointment around the fans and etc. just now, Ox, is the domestic form as well. I think we would just have about accepted, not the manner of the performances as Jaffa said in terms of Europe, but there was always going to be a chance that we might not pick up any points. Maybe at home we would have expected to maybe get a win, perhaps. But I think it's been sort of coupled with the domestic form, Ox, and how badly we've played in some of the games, a lot of the games actually. And I think that's what's been hard to take. The Livingston was a real disappointment, but as Jaffa said, it's these next 3 games, it must be 3 victories.
The focus is going to have to go into the future, not the past. You learn from history, Jaffa, you can't change it.
That's the biggest thing.
Unless you're another football team, but that's another story. Maybe do a special on that one night and all, but carry on.
That's a separate entity, Ox.
See what you've done there. That was quite good, Jaffa. You're learning.
Listen, the most important thing that they've got to take out of the 6 Champions League games, and individually and collectively as a group, as a team, is they've been up against some really top class teams. That's how you learn to play football, Ox. All of us that have played football, every single person, you learn from the next person, the next man or the next woman you play football with beside you. That's how you learn to play football, or any sport for that matter. And the team, guys like Leon King, James Tavernier, I mean, they've got to get together, and that's the kind of stuff that I would like to see getting rectified. That performance last week against Aberdeen is that's got to be the level. That's from now on in, even after the World Cup, but for the next 3 games, that's the level and that's the performance. I know we're short with players. I get all that. But at the end of the day, you can only play the 11 the players that are fit. And if that's what's available, then we've got to get on with it and just get the tactics right, Ox. And I guess maybe more importantly, that's what I'm questioning, is that we seem to be repeating too many times for my liking. These, getting absolutely opened up with what looks like very basic moves, where some of our players who are top pros are not seeing things like that happening, unfolding in front of them. And I go back to that goal for an example on Wednesday night, that first goal. Too easy, Ox. That's too easy.
I've got a theory on that, Jaffa, and I said it last night. See, we're set up, and it's only my opinion, the 4-2-3-1, yeah, that's what we play, yeah? Is that fair?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, when you play that system, and you're up against teams that pass it, or decent teams where you're defending, you can end up with 6 defenders when nobody goes in the middle, and if the 2 do go out, mate, they just can't they can't cover the distance, mate. And the 3 are left that high, it sort of ends up a 6-4, if that makes sense.
Yep.
With nothing in
no,
the
totally. I totally, Ox, I'm with you on that one. I think also what it does is by putting the 2 in there, what you're doing with the three in front of them is they can't go back. There's not any space for them to go into. And because of the teams, that's the tactics, that's the what Gio's set up, and that's the process. Those guys, those three in front, they don't want to come back into that area where the two are, because that's the two sitting midfielders. So what you end up doing is there's too much traffic in there within your own team, within your own setup. Forget about what the opposition are doing. Just look at your own setup. Personally, Ox, I'm just my opinion. I think the Rangers' current team, the actual pool of players, I think looking at them and having watched them play and watch each player playing their own position, I think we're more suited to a 4-4-2.
All right, we played the 4-3-3 under Gerrard, Linda. Gerrard and Beale, the three shuffled across, and gave you cover wherever the ball went, and we played narrow with the full-backs in, so that the distance and the cover was there and we were hard to play through. Yeah, but these two, if Stephen Davis, and I'm not going to go at Stephen, but if he gets pulled out to cover Tavernier, the ball goes into the middle, we'll get Arfield. Yeah? And your wingers coming back, your Kent and Sakala, they're giving you what they can in some respects, but that's not their game. They're not thinking about danger. They're trying to go the other way.
Yeah, and as you've just rightly said, the clientele that we're having to use, I mean, I know that even with the best players in, they've still got a lot of ground to make up, but they're in against Ajax with Arfield and Davis. And no disrespect to these guys, but they wouldn't have been expecting to play so many games already this season, particularly at the Champions League level. They would have been guys that would have been expected to bring on if we needed them. But that actual formation, when you think about somebody like Ryan Jack, a fully fit Ryan Jack covers that ground. And he did when he was fully fit and playing under Gerrard as well. So it has a lot to do with, as you said earlier, the people that we've got available. But it might be something that you will have to look at, Ox. I mean, there against Aberdeen, it was Lundstrom and Sands. And then Sands has to step back against Ajax. And as I said there, it's Arfield and Davis that comes in. So, it's quite unfair, having to rely on two sort of elder players in the squad to actually fill those two positions against, you've got to say Ajax, top quality opposition.
They lost 19 goals in the competition as well.
Oh, well, there you go.
They're not happy with their side. Yeah,
no.
Yeah. I think the three teams that progressed in Europe in our group will go deep in both competitions. There you go. I don't think Napoli will win it, Jaffa, but I think if the draw goes their way, they can go deep.
Oh, they'll go far in it, Ox. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying they'll win it, but I certainly think they've got at this current moment in time. They certainly look one of the favourites. So they'll be in the top four favourites to potentially win that, along with your Liverpool and Real Madrid, the usual culprits. They look a hot team. I mean, out of that draw on Monday, there's nobody will want to play Napoli. Nobody, not even Liverpool, will want to play them. So yeah, and I agree. Ajax will probably go far in the Europa League. If you look at down the teams, they probably will. They got a strong chance and probably got their eyes on winning it as well. And again, just going back to the tactics, I see that point you're making there. I mean, that first goal, I'm sorry to harp on about it. Stephen Davis ends up having two men to mark when they turn. See that ball when they put the ball in behind Tavernier. There's four. I mean, we end up with four defenders in the box. They end up with four attackers. That system it's not defensive enough for me, because I think again those three guys that are playing in the three don't know when to come back and don't know when to stay forward, because he's trying to put four attackers on the park, with including the centre forward, and I'm not even sure that we need that up top, because that's part of your defensive makeup, and they don't come back quick enough for me, Ox. I think we can play that in the Premier and the SPL, but I don't think you can play that in Europe.
Yeah, Linda, I know. But listen, look, when you win a game of football, you maybe don't look at the tactics as much. You just go and win. We didn't worry about tactics and that much on Saturday. We won the game quite comfortable, played well, nice stuff. when you lose a game, you seem to dissect it a bit.
Yeah, because look at when we played PSV away, when we beat them 1-0 to go through, that was two really good games against PSV. And when you look at the away game, as I say, the 1-0 game, see the team that night, and then you look at the team that played against Ajax and turned up and get turned over 4-0. I mean, I don't know if I don't think there's a big difference between Ajax and PSV. I might be wrong on that. But when you look at both of those teams, Ox, there was only one change. I was looking at that today. The only difference was that Wright started against Ajax away as he filled in for Lawrence. That the rest, those two teams were the same. And when we turned up to play Ajax, we just looked like a team that was totally lost. And so what kicked all that off? We had been to Parkhead just before that, and obviously had got turned over there, and the confidence just seemed to drain out of the team. So I don't know. There's a lot of things probably to unpack from the whole campaign, and it's maybe something another show. I don't know if we want to look back on it again, but certainly when you look at those two teams, Ox, the only difference, as I said, was Scott Wright started against Ajax and Lawrence started against PSV.
Yeah. Tillman and Lawrence had decent games in Eindhoven.
Yeah.
But I think we played Tillman against Ajax and the game passed them by. But remember, Jeff, for the boys, 20 and all. I know other teams have got young boys in, but he's hardly played any first team football, and we pumped him right in there. Sometimes that's what you think. Well, we've been fair on the boy.
I don't think so, Ox. No, I don't think we have been fair on the lad. I mean, again, that's a great point. His age, his experience. I know he's come through Bayern Munich. I know Tillman's. He's got great potential, and he showed it. We've seen it. The guy's a player. There's no two ways about it. Malik Tillman has got skill, but he's probably one of the most skillful players at our club, and was probably one of the most skillful players at Bayern Munich. And we've got him at Rangers. And the whole reason we've got him there, Ox, is from a coaching point of view, is to develop him. And that's what we've got. That's the best. That's our biggest advantage. And that's the thing that we've got to develop the most, is our coaching of these young players, like Leon King, like Alec Lowry. And we could rhyme off another, the rest of who are in the squad, Charlie McCann. We've got all these great opportunities for these young players, and it's up to us to develop them. And not only that, instill confidence in them and belief and no fear. And that's what you get. I've said it before on this, Ox, and I know we all champion it. That's what you get from young players. That's why Leon King can go and play Champions League football, because he's got no fear. And Malik Tillman's no different. But what you do get, and what you've always got to balance that with, and it was the same last year when Calvin Bassey broke into the team, you've got to balance that way. These young guys, they're not going to go out and play 12 or 15 games and they're going to be at the top of their game. They'll come in and they'll have two great games, and then they'll go missing for a game or two. That's just what you get with young players, because they're learning the game.
Sometimes I think it's what position you go in. You've got your positions, so you can learn the game differently. Centre half, there's no real riding place, Linda. You're in the heat of the battle. And if you look at it, you don't be a rule. It's not a place that you play youngsters. If you can, if you play them at fullback, and if you go back a generation, you throw them out in the wing if they'd a bit of potential. Things.
Yeah.
We're playing the two young boys, Sands, and if you look at we're sort of middle five on Tuesday night. Sands, King, young boys learn their trade, lots of potential in front of them. I think who was it in Christendom? Dad's Army, Scotty Arfield and Stephen Davis. Been a bit unfair. So in front of them we'll get young boys, Sands and King, and then Dad's Army in front of them. Two great players, but the sands of time, and then we'll get another boy learning his trade. So
yeah,
It's no, that's no our middle five if everybody's fit. We're middle five if everybody's fit,
Yeah.
But look, it's done now. We have to move on and win these league games, as you said, Linda, and start building confidence.
Yeah, and we're going to have to be a bit patient with these 3 games as well because of who's available to us, Ox. We want good performances. We want an Aberdeen standard performance in these next 3 games, but you've got to remember 2 of them are away as well. We've got obviously St Johnstone, then Hearts, then St Mirren. I mean, I just want 3 victories. It'd be great if we could score a lot of goals and play really well, but we want to get through these next 3 games and then see, as you say, where that takes us. But I heard Albert saying the other night that, we don't know what's going to happen. We keep saying about this World Cup, but when are all these injured players, destined to come back? We've heard hardly any information about them. But no, there's these young boys, and we are going to be relying on them. Some of them might be on the bench these next 3 games, but certainly in defence, it does look as if it's going to be Sands and King that are going to have to play their part for the next 3 games, Ox.
I'm hoping Ben Davies comes back at the weekend, Jaffa.
Aye, well, I think he indicated that it was only the Ajax game he was going to miss. He certainly he looks good in that centre, on that left side. He's got a cultured left foot, Ox, and he really contributes. Ben Davies, good reader of the game. And that then obviously allows us to push Sands one forward. And I've said it for a long time, Ox. I think James Sands has got something about him. I really do. In that middle of the park, he's athletic. He's aggressive. He's aggressive in the tackle. He's tall. He's got a stature. He's got a presence. The guy's box to box. He's got an engine room in him. I mean, you never see him panting. You never see him out of breath. Just gets on with it all the time. He's at it. And I think personally, I would build a midfield round about James Sands, him and John Lundstrom. And you can add in, I think when you've got the 2 of them in the park, you can bring guys like Tillman into the fray, no problem. And Tillman can go and do the creative side here. The only thing about one criticism I've got of Tillman, he doesn't get back often enough for me. But that's just through my eyes. If that's it's a part of his game, I think he could really develop to try and get his energy levels and try and get his fitness levels up. And I think that would help him as well going forward. But that would be my only criticism of Malik Tillman.
You don't do with losing a pound or 2, Jaffa?
Well, I guess we could all do with losing a pound or 2, Ox. But I think, listen, again, without really getting torn into the team, and I think a lot of it was said last night. So, and I heard even the after show on Tuesday night, the team, and I don't know if you can add the 2 of them sit together, confidence and fitness. I'm not sure if they do. When you're in confidence and your confidence is high, I think every one of us would acknowledge you get that extra 10% of energy. Is that what's missing out the team? Is it those fine margins? Because it is fine margins. It's not like we're we've been off it in certain games. Livingston, for example, mentality. I don't know what's going on in the background at coaching level. I'd like to think that the amount of guys that we've got involved in there and the kind of football brains we've got in there, that the coaching methods and the techniques are getting through to the players. If they're not, if they're not, then we've got a problem, haven't we?
Anyway, we'll be enjoying our first guest this evening. I would like to welcome Gordon Smith to Rangers Radio. How are you doing, Gordon?
I'm fine, Ox. Very well, thanks. How are you?
I'm good, mate. Good, mate. Great to talk to you, mate. Great to talk to you. A blast for the past and fantastic career. You had a guy who did score a 1 goal in a cup final for us, League Cup final, in a treble year.
Yeah, that was my first cup final. That was actually first one I'd ever played in, against Celtic, and I think it was March, and the game was played in March, that thing, and it was a great thrill to play in a cup final. My first final, but also to score the winning goal was a great day for me.
But the memory was a wee bit of a fine header.
It was a header. What happened was the goalkeeper, it was a cross came in from the wing, and the goalkeeper jumped above Alec MacDonald and punched it out. Peter Latchford, the goalkeeper, was, and then I just dived and headed it in, sort of thing. And I made the first goal that day too, which was great for David Cooper. Me and Cooper, we were on our first season, and I crossed the ball in and Coop fired in the roof of the net. Celtic equalised, and it went to extra time. So it was about 2 minutes to go, I think, when I actually got the winner. So it was a right time to score. I got such a cuddle for Jock Wallace after the game. It was like getting an injury. By the way, he had me around the neck and rubbing my face and squeezing my neck. I was in agony. But it was Big Jock was brilliant. I loved playing for him.
That was your first season, mate, and that was a fantastic start to your career. I mean, yourself, David Cooper, Bobby Russell, were fresh into that team. Yeah, revitalised it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was great to come in because the three of us came in at the same time. The season had just started when I got signed. They played the first game and lost to Aberdeen, and I got signed on the Monday. And it was great to come in because, you know why? Because we went into the team, and even though we were all pretty young players, I was early 20s, and the other two boys were younger than me. They were early 20s as well. But so what happened was that we had loads of a really good experience round about us, and that was crucial. I mean, we went in there with about 6 players that had played in the final of the Cup Winners' Cup in 1972 in that team. So it was great to have that kind of level of I would say, experience, but also ability, and people who were like real leaders in that team that day. You know, there was at least 4 or 5 captains in that team in terms of the right sort of attitude to have for a team. And we were the young players getting in there, and although it was tough, they gave us a hard time without doubt. They used to take the mickey out of us big time because we were the new players. But in the end up, they were very appreciative that we were all the 3 of us were able to do our job. You know.
Oh, fantastic! Good side, treble winning first season. Great start to your Rangers career. I bet you couldn't believe it.
Oh no, it was amazing. I mean, I loved being a Rangers fan. It was a real thrill to be signed by the club. But I got quite a shock when Jock Wallace shook my hand after I signed the contract. He gave me a bit of a shock. He said to me, "Welcome to the club, Gordon." He says, "That's taken a while." I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "I've been trying to sign you since you were 18. He says, "I've been trying to sign you for the last 4 years. Do you know?" I said, "No." He said, and I said, "Well, that's funny. I'm going to ask you." I said, "Because I'm playing the left wing for Kilmarnock, and you've got Davy Cooper, you've signed him, you're playing him there." And he goes, "No," I said, "I first saw you playing as a centre midfield player, and that's where you're going to play for me." And then he said something he goes, "You're the last piece of the jigsaw," he said. And that's what he said, and I thought, thank you. And then that was it. I was signed, and it was a thrill to go in that first season under Jock and get the treble. Was a brilliant season for me, and it was like the biggest thrill ever to play for the team you support and have such a successful season. It was absolutely fantastic.
What would you say for the youngsters listening? Would that be the sort of number 10 role, which they would know it now, Gordon?
Yeah, it was. It was a new system. Actually, you're absolutely right, Ox. It was nobody was playing that way because Derek Johnson was his own up front, and to this day, there's still some people think I was a striker and I played up alongside him. I didn't. I played in midfield with Bobby Russell and Alec McDonald beside me, but we had 2 wide players in McLean and Cooper. So what happened was Big Derek was a front 3 really, but they were wide, and Derek was his own. But Derek Johnson was such a good striker that I then had to run. My role was to go and support him whenever with the ball, because I actually could run and was quite mobile in that respect, so it was quite easy for me to do that and make the runs up. And Derek Johnson was great to play alongside, because at times he just flicked the ball into your path when you were making the runs past him, and it meant it was hard. I was also harder to pick up. That was another factor. The way Jock Wallace had set it up was the fact, because I was coming from deeper, that a lot of the teams weren't expecting me to arrive in the box at times when I did, and that made it more comfortable for me to get on the end of things, and that's why I got a few goals that season.
That season finished. Big Jock left. John Gregg took over for the management. We nearly had another unbelievable season. The circumstances got against us, weather, fixtures. We were robbed of the treble. How close do you think we were to win a European Cup? Your second season, Gordon, your second season at the club. Yeah,
well, that's one of my biggest disappointments ever. 2 things was losing the league, but you're absolutely right. A lot of people forget that we were actually caught up in fixtures because of the weather. A lot of games had been cancelled, and we had to fit a lot of games in. We had suspensions and injuries as well at crucial times, and that was a key factor, because we had knocked out the original favourites for the European Cup, Juventus. They were really fancy. They had about 7 or 8 players who were in the World Cup winners for Italy. And that's how good they were, and we beat them. And then we've got the next favourites after Juventus went out were Eindhoven. because they had a load of Dutch international players. We knocked them out, and then Cologne. Now Cologne had some good players, but we were not at full strength. And although we lost 1-0 in Cologne, I still felt we could have gone through. But the game was cancelled even that night, the Wednesday night. It was put over to the next night, the Thursday, because of the weather in Glasgow. And it was really, as I say, we went at full strength. And because of the weather, games were having to get piled up. We get knocked out. We drew 1 each at home. And it was one of my biggest disappointments, because I'm like, what you're saying there, Rox, is absolutely correct. We could have won the European Cup that year, because, Nottingham Forest won it against Malmo in the final. And I'm pretty sure, having seen them both, we would have beaten them both.
Yeah. And then you left the club, Gordon. And I don't want to go into your career, because one of the things we wanted to talk to you about is off the field stuff, because we've had a lot of discussion with people phoning our show, but your career was superb, and you played at the top level, and you're famous for something that happened in an FA Cup final. Then you come back to us and loan and played in another cup final where we lost 2-1 that day. But and then your career progressed. You've been involved in administering the game. You've been involved in management with St Mirren. You've been involved with your club again, and you come back in as director of football. Going to help me out. What is the director of football's role? What happens in modern football?
Yeah, well, what happened was, it was quite an unusual position, because I just happened to be introduced to Craig White at the time. I didn't know him at all, didn't know anything about him, and he just said to me, can you help me about what's basically the structure of a football club? I said, well, they don't really have many in Scotland. I says, but I'll tell you what, I says, the chief executive at times isn't a football person, and the manager has a lot of work to do. I said, what you really need is a director of football. And somebody who actually, they call it, there's different names for it and all that sort of thing. But I said, that is somebody who actually can take on a lot of the role that's required, the business role, and to do with actually assessing the football side of the club. And I said, that's what you need. So he said, thanks for your help. And then about 2 weeks later, he got in touch with me. He says, can I meet you again? And I went to meet him, and he said to me, what you said about our director of football, I've decided that I want to bring that in, and I'd like it to be you. Now, I wasn't sure what to do at that stage. My love for the club was massive, so I'm thinking to myself, the heart says, will I do it? But I didn't know Craig White at all. I didn't know him at all in terms of the personality of what the structure was, what money he had. But I decided to say, okay, now while I was in there in the job, what the main role is to actually analyse every department of the football side of the club. And what you're doing is you're looking at to see, is the scouting system correct? Is the youth development correct? Are the players being treated properly, even at first team level? Is there things that you have to require in terms of help with them with any issues they might have? The players, a director of football would do that rather than the manager doing it. All that type of thing. And I decided then to do that. And what I did was I did reports for Craig White in terms of improvements that needed to be made in terms of the structure of the club, all different areas. But the number of times I spoke to him, I only met him about 3 or 4 times, but each time I spoke to him, I said to him, that report I've done, what are you going to do about it? He goes, yeah, we'll get round to it. We'll get round to it. We'll get these things in place as soon as we can. And I'm saying, okay. Then what happened was, a couple of occasions I actually said to him, I was meeting him mainly with the chief executive at the time and other meetings, but what I said to him was, is this club getting into administration? Is there an opportunity? Is there a potential for that to happen? He said, no, it's not going to happen. So I was like that, okay. And then what happened was there was a lot of talk about it, and he decided to have a meeting with all the players to tell them it's not going to happen, administration. And it was over at Murray Park, as they called it in those days, and we went round and we met all the youth players and everything first, and the coaches and all that, and told them that administration wasn't an issue, it wasn't going to happen, the club was going to go forward successfully. Then we're waiting to meet the first team squad and all the players and coaches and everything when Craig White went on his phone. And he was away for ages and ages and ages. And I just wondered where he was. And finally, when he came back, we got the story that the club had gone into administration. And that's what he was. The second meeting was to tell everybody at the club, the player side of things, that wasn't going to happen. And I was absolutely disgusted by that. And I still, to this day, really feel sorry that I got involved at that time. The first team, they were on a pre-season trip, and I got to meet the people. It was a family hotel the club stayed in, and I met the mother and son were running the hotel, and because I speak German, I got quite friendly with them. And then in October, that was the July, and in October I got a letter, an email from them because I'd left my details with them to say that they hadn't been paid yet. It was about £35,000 they were owed for Rangers staying at their hotel during that July break. So I went to the financial guy at Rangers and said, "What's going on here?" And he said, "Oh, Mr. White's holding back on some of the payments we're making." I said, "This is not fair. This is a family hotel. These people need paid, and I want this to happen right away." And then about a week later, I got an email from the people saying they'd been paid. So that made me think, well, they maybe just holding back on things. It wasn't a case they weren't paying things, it just were holding back. So that was my first sort of, I would say, clue. There was a little bit of a problem there financially at the club. So when that happened, when the actual administration happened, I just decided that I knew that people with their jobs were under pressure and the money that I was on wasn't required anymore. They didn't need a director of football. As soon as the club went into administration, that wasn't going to happen. That was before it was even the receivership. And I just decided that day, I found out about it. The next day I went to the club and I resigned. I just said, I don't want any money because, this is my club. I want any money that was meant to come to me. I wanted it to go to other staff members so that people who really required the money weren't losing out. People in jobs, whether it was catering or cleaning or anything like that, they had to be paid. So that was what happened. And it was. I still look back on it now as a disappointment that I spent the 6 months at the club before that happened. Hindsight's
a wonderful thing, mate. But listen, obviously you conducted yourself well at the time, mate, and life moves on. Life moves on, and you're busy. You're range of things that you've done, mate. And the director of football role, didn't realise before I looked, you'd managed St Mirren for a short period. Was management not something that ever gave you a great pull to come in, mate?
Yeah, I was definitely thinking when I was playing the game in my latter years, it was the main thing I thought about, because that's the reason I went abroad. Actually, I went to Austria and Switzerland purely to strengthen my knowledge about coaching and see the international way of doing it, see how they did things in Austria and Switzerland, just to build it, because I ended up playing at the top level in 4 countries, and you pick up a lot of experience from doing that, and you meet a lot of contacts. You know a bit more about players and about training sessions. So I did want to be a coach, and I went to St Mirren as assistant manager there, and I was in there for 3 years in total. And then I decided what happened was when I left St Mirren, I resigned there. I didn't go on with the final manager was Jimmy Bowen, and we weren't great friends together. So I left, and then I got offered media work, and I started to do that. And I went back into financial services, which I'd been in before. And then I started an agency business. So that was going pretty well. I had an agency business and a lot of media work until 2007, when I actually took the SFA job. When I got offered that job as well, I decided to take the job. It was they offered me the chief exec job there, and I decided that would be a good experience for me as well in terms of my background, to learn a bit about how the Scottish game is actually run and to see whether I could actually offer anything in order to help make the Scottish game better.
Or the Scottish game is not run. Might be better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thing with you, I mean, obviously you played the game, you've managed, director of football, agent. Now, there wouldn't have been agents when you started.
No.
Yeah. Is it important for the players' agents, mate?
It's a very important role. The main thing about it, I'll tell you why that is the case. I mean, see, when I went to Brighton, I didn't want to go to Brighton. I was sold against my wishes to go. I was forced out of the club, but I didn't know that. When John Gregg told me to go down and speak to the Brighton manager as a favour, he's a friend of mine. He said, Alan Mullery, he says, just go and speak to him. I don't want to sell you. It wasn't until I was down there I found out that wasn't the case, that I was actually being sold. Although it was a record fee for me, it was still a disappointment. I didn't want to go, but I signed for Brighton. But the thing is, if I'd had an agent, agents nowadays are usually the first ones that are told about an interest from a club. So I would have known that was happening, and I would have known what was going on there. And he said he'd actually tried to get me. He'd been in 7 times for me. And between you and me, he'd actually also, he told me he was bidding for 2 players at the club, Davy Cooper as well. He tried to get me and Coop. And John Gregg said, you can only have 1. And he said, I've decided to go for you. And I said, well, you get the wrong one. I just laughed about it. And he laughed as well. He said, no, I want a midfield player that can score goals. And then that's why he'd signed me. So I signed for Brighton. Then, as I say, I didn't want to go there. but ended up being there. So I ended up, as I say, it was a good experience. So I have said to John Gregg since that he actually did me a favour to a certain degree, because it allowed me to play at the top level in England. Yeah. And that was great to get that kind of experience as well, playing for Brighton and then going to Manchester City as well.
Your timing was wrong, Man City. You might have been better going this year.
Certainly would. It's unbelievable to think that I took a pay cut to go to Man City from Brighton. Do you think you'd have to do that now?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. All the roles you've had in the game, before we go on to what you're doing now, mate, what are the roles you've had in the game? The playing one by far the most enjoyable?
Oh yeah, definitely. No doubt about that. Playing is the main thing. I mean, as a wee boy, I had this belief that I was going to be a player, and also the desire to be a player, and I had no doubt in my mind that I was going to be one, and that's why right from an early age I was practicing hard. I used to practice a lot on my own to improve. I was always like that. I never ever thought for a moment at any time, I'm like refined, I'm perfect, I can play. I always wanted to say I need to make this better, make that better. So that was what I was like. And so achieving my football career and becoming a professional was a major thing for me, and that was the main thing in my life in those days. So everything else after that was just things that I was fortunate maybe to be involved in other things, but the playing side of things was what I wanted.
What are you doing yourself at the moment? I mean, you've obviously been busy for a long number of years, yeah?
Media work. I'm still working away with things. I'm doing business development for a couple of companies. One does the property side of things, and I'm doing that. And the other one, as a new business I've just started, actually my own business, is to do with improving players' mental health. It's not just for football, but I'm bringing it into football. It's an American science. An American scientist developed this, and it's called Flowcess. And what it is it improves people. You actually determine what each person's personality is like. They do a test and you determine their personality, and from that personality you can then tell them what's the best things in their life, how to cope with problems they have, what's best in terms of the role, the kind of role they should be playing. And I'm going to bring it into football now. I've just brought it over here. I've got the license for Europe for it from this American company. They've been running it there for about 12 years as scientists. So I'm bringing it over here, and I'm going to try and get it into the football business in Scotland first and foremost. So that's one of the things I've got going. But another thing I've got going at the moment is I'm actually the president of the Erskine Hospital, the Rangers side of things, the Rangers RSEA. And what happens is I help fundraise for them. I'm doing a lot of functions. And one of the things I've got on the go now is a friend of mine who is a musician, and he's part of the Musicians Union. He years ago he taught me how to play guitar, and we did a Rangers record years ago. And the strange thing was it came out it was coming out just at the time when I got transferred. So I was bringing this out as a Rangers player. It was called the Rangers record. It was an LP in the old style of things, and it was Rangers songs. I actually wrote 2 of the songs on it. But what's happened is, because the Rangers scenario, when they were forced down to relegation to the third league, he decided to do a memorable song list. He did some songs for that, just to commemorate Rangers coming back to the top. And he's written these songs, and he asked me along to perform one of them, which I've done. So there's a CD out there now. It's called the Rangers Blue CD, and the money that's raised are going to go to the Erskine Hospital. So it's a fundraiser, and I'm not getting involved in not making any money myself. I'm just helping out with this, and because I'm involved with Erskine, and the fact is that I can sing at times as well. People will judge that when they hear it. But I'm singing one of the songs on it, and that's what's I think is a great aspect. It's called Homage to Heroes, the one I'm singing. It's all about the great people that have been involved in Rangers over the year. So there's 5 songs and 6 songs in total, and I'm one of the songs on it. And I think we'd like people to obviously buy this, because it's Rangers songs, but the main thing is it's a fundraiser for Erskine, the RSCA.
I've seen you perform at NASA, Gordon. I've seen you perform at NASA when you had the guitar out, when you sang.
Oh, that's right. Yes, I did. That's right. You saw that, did you? Yeah. Yes. I sang over there, and but as I say, I was quite lucky. I mean, I think this guy taught me to play guitar David Shaw, he's written the songs for this, and he's the one that's like, he's put all this together, he's produced it, you know, and he taught me how to play guitar, and it was quite funny. In 1979, it was 6 months before I left Rangers, was when I was at a concert with Wings, and I get a guy come up from Autograph, and afterwards he said, "You're a big fan of Paul McCartney?" And I said, "Yeah, I really am." And he says, "You'd like to meet him?" And I says, "What do you mean?" He goes, "I'm head of security. Come round to the stage after the show, and I'll take you in to see him." And that's what happened. I went in and met Paul McCartney that night, and that was a great thrill. And then Paul McCartney said he would love to come and see me play, and 6 months later I was transferred to Brighton, so I got in touch with his company and said, "Paul wants to see me. I'm now at Brighton, and I know he lives in Sussex." And they got back in touch with me and said, "Yeah, Paul's going to come along." Next thing was I got invited to Linda McCartney photograph exhibition, met Paul again and Linda, and they said, "Come to the house. You don't live far from us. We're in Peasmarsh in Sussex, and you're in Brighton." And I went along and I spent an afternoon in their house and got very friendly and got to know him. So that was a great thing. That was all came from my Rangers career as well, getting to meet Paul McCartney. So he's a fan, and as I say, I learned to play guitar, but I'm not at that level. But it was good to play the song. So hopefully you're going to play it on the show.
We are.
Great.
Listen, just before you go, how do you assess the team, our team, because it is our team? How do you assess them at the moment, last season and this season? Sometimes us as fans can be very fickle, but you've been somebody that's been involved in the game. How do you assess them?
Well, I analyse it greatly, Ox. This is for sure. But I do work with Rangers TV as well. But I think, to see to actually say it's the strangest thing, because the gulf, it's not as if there's a massive gulf between the Europa League and the Champions League. There is a gulf in terms of some of the teams, right? But you only need to look at this year, teams who are struggling in it. Juventus, for example, Barcelona, they're already out of the competition this year. So, and teams that Rangers beat, and actually Eindhoven, and Leipzig, they're in it. So the Rangers can beat teams like that last season, and this season those teams are doing well. So there's been a big fall in the Rangers standards this season. It's not as if they can't compete. It's basically down to the fall in the standards. Now, one of the aspects of it that hasn't helped is the fact that they are without quite a few players at the moment. There's no doubt. I looked even at the game on Tuesday night. There, we're considering it before the game, and it was actually, we could name 10 first-team players that were actually not available. So that's a big loss in that respect in terms of the competition for places. But they should still be playing better to a degree, and the results have been a major disappointment. So I'm hoping to fight back. The European thing's finished now. They've got to put that behind them, not really worry too much, and hopefully we're going to get some players back soon. But the main aspect is that we actually go and compete for this league championship. That is the crucial thing now. We've got three games to play, I think, before the World Cup starts, and we don't want to be any lower in the league than we are at the moment. If Celtic win their 3 games, then we need to win our 3 games too.
Yeah. Gordon, before you go, just give us the name of the CD again.
Yeah, the name of the CD is Rangers Blue.
Rangers
and
Blue.
And you go into the website, you get into the RSCA website, into the Erskine website, and you'll see how you can purchase it. I think it's $5.95.
Cheers, mate. Listen, Gordon, thanks for taking the time to join us. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. And anytime you want to come on and tell us more stories about you and Paul McCartney, we'll be willing to hear them, mate.
Pleasure, Ox. It was a pleasure. I've got a few stories to tell about it, and hopefully we can do that again sometime. Cheers, mate.
Thank you, Gordon. Cheers.
Thanks, Ox. Bye.
Jump up with Rangers high in the sky, bring in the changes ready to fly. Homage to heroes, all do or die. Rangers here to stay. Blow on the trumpet, bang on the drum. Thousands of heartbeats beating as one. Let all our legends spirits become heroes once again.
Walter Smith, John Gregg, Eric Caldo, Jim Baxter, Jim Forrest, Willie Henderson, Davy Wilson, Colin Steen, Willie Johnston, Sandy Jardine, Alec MacDonald, Tommy McLean, Derek Johnston.
Jump up with Rangers, stand and be strong. Laughing at danger, just bring it on. Blue Revolution, where we belong. Rangers home to stay. Jump up with Rangers, stand and be proud. We'll always follow, never in doubt. No fear of danger when we're about. Rangers all the way. Blow on the trumpet, bang on the drum. Thousands of heartbeats beating as one. Let all our legends spirits become heroes once again.
Davy Cooper, Andy Gorham, Richard Goff, Brian Loudrup, Mark Haitley, Ian Ferguson, John Brown, Ali McCoist, Ian Durant, Chris Boyd, Barry Ferguson, Paul Gascoigne, and many more.
Pump up the volume right to the top. Sing with our heroes, don't let it stop. When we get weary, ready to drop, watch us go again. Jump up with Rangers, show how it's done. Pure entertainment, second to none. Say one for all and play all for one. Rangers here to stay. Jump up with Rangers, show how it's done. Pure entertainment, second to none. Say one for all and play all for one. Rangers.
Why don't you give us a call on 0141 356 1972? It's your show, it's your platform. Let's hear from you.
Well, I enjoyed talking to Gordon. What a gentleman.
Fantastic.
Brilliant.
Yeah, but that could have lasted 10 times longer, mate, I think. 10 times longer. But great to hear from him. And what he's done for a worthy cause and a charity close to all us here in Rangers Radio, the Rangers Supporters Erskine Appeal. So if you've got a few shekels kicking about, go on the website, buy the CD. It's all going to a worthy cause for a great man, a great Ranger. Yeah, interesting life, Hunter.
Certainly has had an interesting life, absolutely. It was really great listening to him. And even all the, what he was said around when he took that director of football role on Ox, and a really terrible time for the club. And he was very, very honest, wasn't he? And as you said, he complimented on how he handled all of that. That must have been a terrible time. But obviously a really great football career at Rangers as well. Talked really fondly of Jock Wallace and that domestic treble and his cup final goal. I mean, what a great guy. And yeah, absolutely class, real class.
I've just been sent a message from one of our Facebook listeners, Keith Hamilton. If you're listening, Keith, he's posted on that he played against Gordon. Didn't go very well. He was a goalkeeper and they lost 13-0. Fair play to you, Keith, for putting that out there. Fair play to you. I'm sure Gordon remembers you fondly.
You know what's great? You know what's great about Gordon Smith, Ox? I think he absolutely underscore epitomises everything about a brilliant Ranger. He's an absolute gent, isn't he? He's just proper red, white and blue.
Yeah, but he's maybe a unique character in the game if you think about it. Obviously, he played for us. He went down south, and then he ended up with a short time with St Mirren managing him. But then he's been an administrator, an agent, and then we were director of football. It's quite unique, really, if you're being honest, Linda.
Yeah, absolutely, Ox. I didn't actually realise he had undertaken all those roles, but when he was talking about it, obviously sort of things start to come back to you. the thing about he was meeting Paul McCartney as well, you know, so it was inside and outside football. So as you said, a really, really interesting life. I've heard him on RTV a few times, and he's really quite honest in his, you know, in his summing up and his assessment of the game. I could have listened to him a lot longer than that. You're right.
Here. Unique. Well, a lot of your past players have got stories to tell, Jaffa. Huh?
Oh, geez. Yeah, I mean, there's about 7 books in there of all the things. He could write a book about everything. He could write a book about the SFA.
I believe that Paul McCartney asked Gordon if he knew Bridgeman. There you go.
And again, Ox, I know we spoke about it some weeks ago. He scored one of my favourite Rangers goals ever against PSV Eindhoven that night. I can still see myself jumping about the living room, going mental.
I think you might be getting mixed up with a certain Bobby Russell.
Oh, I'm getting mixed up. Beg your pardon, Bobby Russell. I'm getting mixed up. It's because he was talking about Bobby Russell.
Yeah, part of that team. Aye. I think we've been joined by Harry. Evening, Harry.
Hi there, how you doing, Oxchair?
I'm good, mate. Yourself?
Fine, Oxchair. How's London? How's Jaffa?
Hi, Harry.
Great,
evening,
Harry.
Oxchair.
Yes, mate. What's on your mind?
I am.
Well, carry on.
I've just listened to Jaffa there, and I agree with everything Jaffa says. I think as Rangers fans, we need to give. I think we need to give the team a wee bit of leeway, and I feel that the injuries has been a bit of a problem. But I think they've got to trust the young boys that's come in, and let them make the few mistakes, and just go with the young boys just now, and hopefully they get us through the next 3 games, and just hope that even if it's 3-1-0,
have you got the show?
We're just going to take it, Oxchair, and just as Linda says,
Harry,
I've listened to that game on Tuesday,
Harry,
and I've seen it. Sorry.
Have you got the show on in the background?
No, hold on, I checked. I had it on the phone, but I'm...
Yeah, turn
Hello?
it off, mate.
I have Oxchair. Hold on, I'll turn it off. Hold on.
Turn it off.
Yes, I'm sorry, Oxchair. Hold on.
It's all right, mate. It's all right. Don't do it again. You back with us? Oh, he'll be back. He's lost him. He'll be back in a minute. He's talking to himself. We're good at that job, aren't we?
I stood talking to a lamppost in Bella Medina for 15 minutes, I'll have you know.
I was holding on the other side of that lamppost, I'll have you know.
Hello?
Hello, Harry. How are we doing?
Sorry, Oxchair. I did
That's
have
all
it.
right.
Sorry,
Don't
mate.
apologise. Yeah, listen, I'll pass you to Jeff. I'll let him answer your point. I think that Sands and King will definitely play a role in these 3 games at some point. Definitely, and maybe big roles as well. Jaffa?
I think they will, Ox, moving forward for the rest of the season. I'm really quite excited about James Sands in that middle of the park role. I would like to see a bit more round about him. I'd like to see a few more guys coming in, especially if we do make any signings in January. I hope that's the area, the part that he looks at and tries to get some legs in there. As I said, and I know we keep saying on this show, no disrespect to Stephen Davis and Scott Arfield, but we need some runners in there. We need some box to box midfielders. We need some young guys that can put in 90 minutes performances.
If you were to pick, Jaffa, if you were to pick the midfielder that we need for our past midfielders, you know, hypothetically, if you pick 2 of them to go into their team and improve it, who would it be?
Ian Ferguson.
2.
Ian Durant.
Ian Ferguson, Durant. All right, okay. No bad choice. All right, carry on, Jaffa. Just curious to see where you pick here.
And I think that's the area of the park, Ox. I think it's glaring, especially now that we've picked up a few injuries in that area with Lawrence and stuff. Listen, look, as we said, we've got a few people coming back. If we start getting you start seeing the doctor's surgery getting a bit lighter, and a few guys getting back to full fitness and full health. Tom Lawrence, as I've just mentioned there, and there's Hadji. Would be good to see him coming back. I think Hadji was such an underrated player, Ox. I know he wasn't your favourite, but I rated Yanis Hadji. I thought he saw things that other players didn't. I think he saw passes that other players didn't. He had craft about him. He could open defences up. He could see things. Going back the way wasn't his strength, but and if we've got that defensive part of it, with your James Sands and Lundstrom in there, it's energy we need. It's legs. It's guys that can run the miles and run the kilometres for you. And I think that's the area of the park now where Gordon Smith just mentioned it there, Ox. It's fine margins. And I'm not referring to Champions League level. I'm just talking about football in general. It's fine margins. And at this moment in time...
Jaffa, Harry, you'll need to, I don't know what you're doing, mate, but we're going to have to let you go with the noise we're getting off you, mate.
Sorry, it's the phone I think. Oh, sorry if you can hear me.
Aye, it's just the background noise. You don't hear it, we hear it, mate. Are you all right there?
Aye, are you hearing it still? I've just moved out. What it was I think it's where I've moved out the kitchen. Obviously, I've made a cup of tea when I phoned you, so I've moved out the kitchen, but there's a bit of a back noise outside, so I think that's what you're picking up.
No, if you move about and your phone moves about, believe it or not, we pick that up, you know what I mean?
Right, sorry.
Mate, what did you have with your cup of tea?
Oh, I had a nice Jaffa cake. Sorry, Jaffa, but I had a Jaffa cake.
We're always interested, Jaffa, aren't we?
Did you dip or no dip?
Oh, I dipped.
Are you a dunker, Harry?
Oh, aye.
Are you a dunker, Linda? Oh, she's on mute. Linda, come off of mute. Well, I know you're definitely a dunker. You're a double dunker, Jaffa.
Chocolate digestive, absolutely. Dunker.
See, there you go. I thought a lady never told. There you go. You learn something new every day, Jaffa, not me. I must admit, custard cream, can't beat it. Right, okay. Harry, do you get Jaffa's point? We need somebody in there, and the boys will play a big part, yeah? It's time to get behind the team, eh? Time for us all to get behind the team.
When I phoned you the last time, remember I was talking about kind of tactics, Linda, I'd like to pick up something that you said, if it was all right.
Of course.
You were mentioning something I spotted when I was at the games and all, is see when the attackers were coming down, especially in the Aberdeen game, and it showed last night and all, see when they were coming down by the main stand, right? So they're attacking for the main stand, so they're coming towards Tav. See when we have no go, that's when I noticed, like positional players like the young boys and that, Tav tends to drop in more. I see him pulling in more towards the penalty box. So every team now has spotted that. Livingston spotted it, Aberdeen spotted it, Ajax spotted it. If you swing a half-decent ball right to left and you ban it over the Tav, 9 times out of 10, Davis and Arfield can't cover that run because you're asking quite, I mean, I don't mean you use the word as army ox, but you are asking these guys to run a lot. So if you know that's the two midfielders that are playing against you, then all you need to do is do that pin. If you watch that game back again, the Aberdeen, and if you watch the Ajax game, 9 times out of 10, that first half, that ball was getting pinned right to left to try and take Tav and you're right out the game. And something's wrong with Tav because he's no got that resource that he's thinking. And even when he crosses a ball in, Linda, 9 times out of 10, he's hitting the first man or he's hitting it long. Nobody's making the attack. I don't know if you've seen that yourself, but I've seen that at the games, and I just feel a wee bit worried. Yes, I love him, Jaffa. I do love him as a player and things, but there's a slight weakness to him this year, Linda, I think, and it's starting to show.
Did I hear you right there? You said you loved Jaffa.
No, I love Jaffa. I love Jaffa cakes.
Listen, I'm a man of the world. Rangers for everyone. I'm no judging, Harry. I'm no judging. Carry on, Linda. You can answer that, Linda.
No, I think you're right, Harry. And, we've been saying this for weeks and weeks now that there's, Tav's definitely carrying an injury and he's been asked about it and so is Gio. And they're obviously just going to say, no, he's fine. but his crosses into the box haven't been very good. You know, he's not beating the first man. They don't seem to have that power and that kind of, you know, sort of a, you know, swerve or whip on them. But he's definitely not as fit as he was. And I think it's kind of it shows the strength and depth of our squad that we've not really got anybody that can come in and replace them. You know, the wee boy Divine, that they obviously don't want to throw him in, Harry. So hopefully, you know, Tav will get a good rest when this World Cup comes up, and then we can get him back, you know, mid-December, hopefully firing in all cylinders, because we've missed them.
Aye, definitely.
I think it's an obvious tactic. That's what we do when we go narrow and teams attack us, you know, and we leave that sort of outside space for people to get the ball. I think it's a tactic, Jaffer, if I'm being honest. It's happened too often not to be a tactic, you know.
Aye, it is, Ox. I mean, Harry's right. Other teams are spotting it, you know, when they're watching back the games. They'll be seeing how much he's pushing up. And Tav does have a tendency, because he's got that natural bit in him where he wants to join in with the forward play. So the minute the ball starts moving out of defence and moving into midfield, he starts drifting. Whether he comes inside or whether he pushes, he tends not to push up the wing. He tends to go and sit in a kind of inside right position. And that just leaves acres of space in behind him. And as you say, one simple ball, and it is. I mean, it is dead simple balls. It's not just Ajax. Livingston done it, as you said, Ox. There's been umpteen teams done it this year. We could probably go through every game of the season where he's been exposed. And he's not got that turn of pace that maybe he did last year or the year before, where he could get back. He doesn't have that turn of pace. I don't know, maybe you're right, Ox. Maybe he's carrying a bit too much beef. And that, you know, a couple of pounds at the level of playing professional football is huge. You know, it's like a fighter getting into the ring. You know, if you're overweight, you're not as agile, and that could be. But if you do recall, going back to the pre-season, he was out doing a pre-season. I don't think he stopped the whole of the pre-season after Seville, but he was putting stuff in social media with him and his younger brother Marcus. They were out somewhere doing a pre-season, a pre-season, if you want. I don't know. Is he overtraining? I'm not. We're not in the coaching ground. You'll never know that kind of stuff.
I think he's got a groin, something with a groin. And I think it's rest, and I think he can run, Linda, but it's affected his performance. He'd be as fit as any of us. Maybe not your good self, Linda, but
cheeky.
He's not 100% fit, and obviously I think this is only my theory. I think because of that, his performance has been affected both physically and mentally.
Because if you're not 100%, it does affect you mentally.
You know what it's like. You've got a sore pinky, Linda.
Okay, you've got a sore pinky. You can't hit that 9 iron the same way as you usually. You know, the thing about Tav, and Jaffa's right, I remember seeing those videos. I think he was maybe in Dubai, but I mean, he could maybe just have overdone it. But it will be frustrating for him because he is such an integral part of how we do attack, isn't he, Ox? Because if he's not getting up and down, you know, the sidelines and joining in with the attack, who else is going to do it? You know. I have noticed as well that we've had a lot more play from the left, maybe to try and give Tav a bit of a break, you know, because Borna's been, you know, trying to put in more crosses, and I think probably would like him to do that a bit more as well, you know, attack. But I think with Tav in here, he's always going to play as well. You know, sometimes it's up to the manager to take a player out, but I just hope that there's not any long-term damage, because we've had a tendency to kind of run players into the ground in the past, haven't we, a bit?
Alfie comes to mind, Harry, didn't he?
Well, that's Linda, you just taken the words right out of my mouth, so you two off there. I think, if you looked at that game there on Tuesday, Alfie had a great chance. If you look at the game against, I think he did score an off goal against Aberdeen and eventually got his goal. But I don't know if it was the game before that, he had a great opportunity. You can just tell he's just off the boil, Alfie. And if you've got Alfie off the boil, Kent kind of fired 50-50. You've got Tavernier not playing too much. That's 3 big players Ox we can't do without. And you're asking kind of young boys to come in and play with guys that's kind of, I'm not going to say over the hill, but they're in the last year of their contracts and they're probably not going to get another thingy. So, but I think we've kind of done above our table, if you know what I mean, for the type of many injuries we've got. What we're asking these young boys today, and you can see players it's no kind of hit maybe 50% of what they were doing last year. Your Arfields, your Davises, your Tabs, your Kents, and your Moraleses. I would say these type of players, although Arfields gave us a wee bit more than the other 4 or 5 I've mentioned, but the rest are kind of like 50% in every game. So you're looking then at other guys that you're asking to come in, like your Sakalas, like your Tillmans, guys that's just come in, like your Golaks, and pick up the reins. And lucky enough, Golak's done that. But what if he gets injured? We've only got one striker, really, Austria. The rest are kind of injury prone, or they're no hitting him. So if anything happens to him, and we need, as Jaffa says, we need to bring in at least 2 or 3 players in January to kind of add to what we have got. I think we're going to struggle, really, I think we're going to struggle because we don't know how many players is actually going to come back because we don't hear much about the injuries, really.
Aye, I think we need some players back. We maybe need some players in. I just, London, I'm not feeling the January thing. It just never seems to work for us, does it?
No. Our history in the January transfer window is really poor, isn't it? You know, if you think back to last year, you just felt as if it was the last throw of the dice, and when Ramsey came through the door, everybody was quite excited about it. But I think once we kind of realised that it's going to take him all that time to get up to some sort of speed, and the wee boy Diallo, you know, he done okay, and then he just disappeared out of the team altogether. So I'm not sure about January, Ox. It's just going to come down to finances as well and who's available. Because sometimes in January it's players that aren't actually getting games for their teams that maybe become available, and if that's the case, is it because they're not playing very well? I don't know. It's quite a sort of it's quite dodgy. I think the January transfer window.
Yeah, I mean, personally speaking, Ox, for the experience we've had in the last couple of January transfer windows, that should be planned. That should be the plans for that should be well underway as we speak now. You know, and who it is they're going to bring in. And Linda makes a great point there about Ramsey and the amount of money we blew on him and Diallo and these transfer fees for these guys. I would personally, Ox, if it was me, if that's the area of the team that he's going to look at, I would rather he went and we went and utilised the English cross-border market. That would be where I would go personally. I would be going down to the EPL's academy teams, and I would be trying to lure a couple of really young, talented players. You know, like, for example, Sammy Braybrook for the Leicester Academy, who's absolutely a box-to-box midfielder, shining light now. He looks a great player, a great prospect. I would be going and trying to entice him the same way we've done with Calvin Bassey.
Do you want a project? I get that it could be the next Calvin Bassey, but is he going to go in and help push towards this league title in January?
I would say he would, Ox. Aye, I would. We players like of that ability and that's where he is. I mean, he's not on the Leicester City first team squad. I would, and there's lots of those young guys down in the EPL that are available in cross-border transfers. And that's where I think where we got the best, where we utilised in the case of Aribo, in the case of Bassey. We know they weren't the finished article when they came in, but surely these guys, they're fit. That's the fundamental part about it, is that their bodies are fit. They're capable of playing 20, 30 games in the rest of the season, if that's what's left of the season. I would say that's a safer bet with long-term planning with the money than going and spending on guys like Diallo, Ramsey, and various other players that we've picked up that are projects. Great if we can great if we can go out and sign £3 and £4 million players, Ox, but I don't think we will. I don't think they'll spend that kind of money.
Okay. Interesting thoughts, mate. Interesting thoughts, right? You know, that this World Cup break's coming up, and it might be a blessing in disguise for us, Linda. But should we? I've seen the day that Pep's going to just keep training with his team. The players that are only going to the World Cup are just going to keep training, and they're looking to play some friendlies. I have heard it rumoured. You never know. But what do you think? Do we work on tactics, fitness? Or do we go at the players of a holiday and then come back and do another pre-season? How would you go about it?
Well, I think it'll depend. You know, any player, Ox, that's got some sort of injury, for example, Tav, right, and has been playing with that over the last few weeks, something like that surely has to be managed properly. So that could be an example of somebody that might get a week, maybe 10 days off, just hypothetically. So, but then you've got the players who are not got any injuries, maybe players that have not played as much. You want them to be fit and firing, so you could see why you would keep them training. And I think definitely you would have to have some friendlies, Ox. I just don't see that not happening. But generally, I think it would probably fit into two camps. There might be a few players that really do need a bit of a break, but there'll be other players that maybe haven't played enough and they need to keep training and get obviously minutes. But you might find a couple just in the fortnight before the league kicks off again, then it'll probably go full pelt, I would imagine.
Harry?
I agree with what you're saying, Ox. I think it's a combination of training tactics and a kind of pre-season, if you want to throw it in. A week in the sun somewhere, I think that's what it'll probably do with who's left behind and guys like...
Are you asking me away for a week in the sun?
Well, if you want to do that, Ox, that'd be brilliant. And I'm sure Linda would like that.
Oh, I bet we'll go back to Ibiza.
She's bad.
So forget Ibiza for Linda, is that what you're saying?
Many moons ago.
But as you say there, Oxtrair, I just think Linda says it covered it as well. You've got guys that's probably just played in the periphery of injuries, or maybe a week out or whatever the day with the physio, and try and get them back to some kind of better level of fitness. And you'll get guys like Hadji and Lawrence and that can maybe do with a bit more, and Ruth that could maybe do with a wee bit more one-to-one contact training and things like that. So I can see that happening in a wee bit of sunshine and things like that.
I would ban Ruth for one-to-one contact training.
I know he couldn't play on Tuesday because I think he's ruled out of the Champions League. He wasn't in the Champions League squad, I think, Ruth.
He was injured again for Saturday there with another knock in his groin. Sorry, his calf. Before we go to Jaffa, let's hear from these.
Why don't you give us a call on 0141 356 1972? It's your show, it's your platform. Let's hear from you.
Yeah, what would you do, Jaffa? If you were the director of football, what would be the plan you would have in place?
Well, we're going to have very few players away, actually, at the World Cup, Ox, realistically. I mean, if we do have one or two, it will be like low numbers. So, apart from the injured players, we're probably got a full, you've got 18 players probably. They've just got to keep training, Ox. Go through their drills and just concentrate and whether it be tactics, whatever he's going to do for the rest of the season, and just better it. I mean, what you can't do is run the risk of giving the players a week or 2 weeks off, because listen, it's footballers we're talking about. These guys, you need to keep the system regimented, because I mean, would you give Alfie a couple of weeks off, because you'll be back to square one with Alfie again? And I'm not saying all of them are like that, but there's a lot of pros in the team that will go away and they'll look after themselves. You've got to they will need some time off, but I wouldn't say any more than maybe a week and then get them back, and just whether it be a combination of friendlies, a summer training camp somewhere. I don't know if they are planning to go away. I'm sure we would have heard about it by now if the team were planning to go away, or just concentrating, keeping them fit and getting and improving the fitness levels, conditioning work. A combination, Ox. I certainly wouldn't be giving them loads of time off.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, I think you'd have to look at everybody individually and see what their fitness or see what their body is, and then see, right, you can have maybe 2 days off, you can have 3 days off. You've got to work on your fitness because you're in there's your plan. I think there'll be individual plans for everybody.
Yeah, definitely, because I was just thinking when Jaffa was talking there about Alfie, he's made a great point, because you just wouldn't trust him to come back and peak form, would you, or peak fitness.
Nobody selection boxes about at that time of
year. I know, absolutely. Ox. Few Terry's chocolate oranges getting eaten by Alfie, that's for sure.
I think we've been joined by Bob Jerry. Evening, Bob Jerry.
Good evening, everyone. How are you all doing tonight?
Yeah, we're good,
Hi.
mate.
Hi, Bob Jerry.
All right, aye. Well, here we go into this game on Sunday, and it's a must-win, eh?
Yeah.
Big advantage here. Big White Parker there, and we've got a good record up here. I don't want to tempt fate by saying that, but we've got no bad record up there. And we should have most of the ball against a side like St Johnstone, so let's make it count. Eh? Big 3 games coming up, brother. So is it Wednesday we play Hearts? Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday, and that's it for the World Cup, eh?
Yep. Jaffa.
So,
sorry, carry on, Bob Jim.
So 9 points is a must, people. All this is behind us through the Champions League and all the rest. And I heard somebody saying earlier on we're starting to get people back. Well, that's good. I don't know who, but that's good. And if we are going to get stronger, let's get everybody back for after the World Cup and go for it. Because we're no, as I say repeatedly, we're no out of anything yet.
Jaffa.
No, everything to play for, Bob Jerry. 9 points is an absolute must. 9 points and three brilliant performances, 3 top-level performances of the Aberdeen standard, the performance they put in last weekend. It's all about attitude. It's all 100% attitude. Bob Jerry, I think Lundstrom and I think Ben Davies will both be back as far as we understand it. Lundstrom was definitely, he'll be back because he was only missing because of suspension. Ben Davies, I think, had taken a knock, but Gio Vanni had said he would be back for the St Johnstone game. So there's 2 back right away to come back into the pool. And it's just about getting out there and getting the performance and getting the attitude right. And I think once they get the attitude right, and now, for this moment on, there's no other Champions League or European distractions now. It's all domestic competitions, so the players, it's a different normal for a lot of the players, because for the last 2 or 3 years all we've done is played Saturday, Sunday or Wednesday, Thursday, so there's no games midweek now for a lot of them, so it'll just be a total concentration on the league programme, and that should be a bonus from a fitness point of view.
Well, when you look at last year what we were playing, I mean the programme was really heavy last year, as we all know, try and make it to that final and just say we're no good at this year. We'll only have the weekly commitment and the pressure of the Champions League's away. So yes, let's get a full fit squad and go for it, because we can win this league. I know we're not at our best, but let's get to our best. To hell with it. We're Rangers. We're bigger, stronger. Let's go.
The Aberdeen performances,
it's going to be consistent.
Aye, and that Aberdeen level is, if we get to that level, Bob Jerry, that's the way forward. That's from now until the end of the season. If we can get to that level and that kind of desire and appetite for the game, where the players are all playing for each other and playing in unity, and playing some tidy stuff as well. We moved the ball about against Aberdeen last weekend really well.
Absolutely terrific. I mean, we can beat all these teams in this league. I didn't need to tell any. There's one team that we need to beat. So let's get bigger and stronger and take them on and all, because they're nothing great. I was going to say that, but they're no. So, as I say, let's get consistent. That's the word. The Aberdeen performance, let's make it a kickstart. Let's make it a point to go for. So 3 big performances is required, and everybody can get a rest during this World Cup, come back, build a new season, fresh and stronger, and make up the ground that we've lost. The annoying thing was the Livingston result, we all ken that, but again, that's behind us. So, it's onwards and upwards, Rangers, for this moment. Starting for Sunday.
Linda?
Yeah, absolutely, Bob, Jen, and consistency maybe as well in terms of the team selection. That would be nice for him, wouldn't it? I mean, I'd like to see the team that played against Aberdeen. I know young Yilmaz probably too soon for him, but Borna in there, and then you've got Lundstrom and Sands hopefully playing in that. The two, if we need the 2 holding players, and I would like to see Sakala get a wee bit of a run in the team as well.
Sakala well.
Sakala, Tillman and Kent, and obviously Cholak. And then you've still got people like young Lowry coming back into the squad as well, and let's hope we can get him into the team, maybe get him on as a sub for a couple of the games as well, Bob J. But I would like to see, as I said, that team that we played against Aberdeen, maybe given a couple of starting berths, obviously as long as they play well. Because we do need some runners in midfield, and I want to see more of the young boy Sands playing alongside Lundstrom.
I thought that we got a lot. I'm not going to harp on about the Champions League under it's been and gone for this year, but I thought the club got a lot of bad, undeserved praise, and I've been pretty undeserved praise. Negative of the press. It was the negativity of the press up here was terrible about it. I thought so. I mean, we're not going to go on about the situation. It's been discussed on the show over the weeks. And this is a new beginning. We're going to go for it for this league title now, starting on Sunday. As we say, kick on for the Aberdeen result. And just get into St Johnstone on Sunday, get the 3 points, get into Hearts Wednesday and into St Mirren next week. And we've got the 9 points, then we can rest on our laurels after the World Cup and go for it again. Because it's no beyond us.
That's a great point you make, Bob J. I mean, look, we know the results, yeah? And some of the criticism we'll accept because we're due it because of the results. But some of the criticism is agenda-led, Jaffa. And we know that. It's a concerted effort. We know what the press are up to, but some people can't see through it. Yeah,
well, sorry, Ox. I don't read any of that guff. Because to me, Bob Jill, that isn't press. Press is information. This is the press. Rangers Radio. We're the Rangers press because we're invested. We're all Rangers supporters. We're all Rangers fans.
Yes.
This is the best press you can get. Because all that other guff is just, as Fox said, it's agenda driven. They've got a narrative they're working to. It's the dark arts. Call it whatever you want. I don't partake in it. I find it all. When I do see bits of it, I find it just. I mean, it's like comic book stuff. But it's written for the opposition. It's not written for Rangers fans. So from that perspective, I let them go on with it because I don't buy it, and I'm sure thousands of us don't. They don't get any of my money, and I know most of us in this show they don't get none of us partake in it. So let them go on with it. But our agenda is only what happens at our club, and that's the thing that they hate most. And as long as we're all supporting our club and getting behind it, and I know it's been tough. The European campaign's been a tough watch for a lot of us, hard to take. We've not lost anything, to use your words. So listen, let's get behind the team and support the team the way we do. We're all season ticket holders, or a high majority of us. We all spend our money down at Ibrox, and keep that going. The way that we have done and way we will continue to do, and get behind the team. That's the best way. They hate it when you do that, and the more we do that, for me, that's the best way forward.
Harry, I think it's time to get behind the team, and I'm sure the way support was sold out on Sunday, and they both
100%
right behind the team.
Aye, 100%. agree with Boxchair and Jaffer and London yourself and everything people have said. I mean, the day the press, Boxchair, for me, I'm 24. For the day for the press, for me, no listen to them, was the day we went into the third division. So, as you say, I mean, the mob across the road, I don't give two hoots about. They've never been in Europe after Christmas under this new manager. Yet, he's getting praised for every bit of football he's played. Yet, we were at a final last year and never got the credit that we did. And the man it's the presenter of this show has put statistics up over the last year or so, talking about the coefficient and what Rangers has done in the last 3 years that's got them into the Champions League, that's got them probably the investment they got this year, has never been mentioned the way it should have been in the press. So that's what I think of the press. But for our fans, we've proved why we stand by our team early years, and we'll still prove how we'll stand by our team. They never did it. We've done it, and we'll come back. Leave it to January, get the 3 wins. I don't care how we get them. I agree with Jaffa. I'd love to see 3 great wins. But the game against Aberdeen I was overexcited about because with all the injuries we have got out and the players that we know that can come back and add to the quality that we come onto the park, if they come back, even 50% of them come back, that'll add to the strength. And if we can play a wee bit more energy-wise in every game and not lift it up by another 50%, we'll win the 3 games, Boxchair. And I've no doubt about it, Bob Chair, we'll be there at the end of the season, either as winners or no far off it, trust me, no far off it.
Winners, mate, winners. London, I don't know who's listening to the stats on here, but I wouldn't listen to them personally, you know.
You're all right, old man.
Oh dear.
You know, Bob Jarrett, it's time to get behind the team, behind the manager. The managers were manager. People will always get individual grievances with managers. I didn't want Kachina, and I'll be honest, really honest with you, I didn't want Kachina. I couldn't understand the appointment. I thought it was a mistake from day one. But I wanted him to do well, and it didn't work out. I took no pleasure at it. There's one of the Rangers radio pundits, and I'll not mention his name because it wouldn't be fair, but he didn't want Giovanni from day one. Oh, I've slipped up. I said he was a he. That means it was the you, Linda. Right? So people will always see things differently, but it's time to get behind the team, time to get behind the manager. Bob Jarrett and Jaffa.
Well, me personally, I'm always got behind the Rangers manager. He's your manager, he picks your team, and, well, I think he does anyway, and always get behind the Rangers manager. I've got a message to you for the Boo Brigade. You never boo the Rangers. Never in your life do you boo the Rangers. It's time for to stand up, be counted. That's the playing squad and the support. It's a combined effort. Let's go for it. We've got 3 big games coming up and we need these 9 points vitally. So as far as the manager goes, yes, I didn't think it was a mistake. I thought it was quite a good appointment, actually. But the boys had a lot of pressure as we can with this Champions League run. But we're not going to prattle on about all the circumstances, the injuries and whatever. It's over, it's done with. This is a new beginning. It started against Aberdeen on Saturday. We want to keep it going, keep it consistent, keep on playing well, get people back, and we will get stronger. And yes, we will be there at the end of the season. I'm convinced of that. Sack managers is not the answer.
Got to get behind him, Ox. As we've debated, over and over on this show, and we'll continue to debate it. He's not everybody's cup of tea. I get that. I understand that. That's fair enough. He's done a lot wrong. He's made a lot of mistakes, but he's done a lot right as well. And you've got to always, I think, if you're going to be critical of him, I think you've also got to go, yeah, but what about this? What about that? There's lots of things. He got us to Seville. That wasn't that long ago. It was only 4.5, 5 months ago. You heard an ex-professional footballer on the show just less than an hour ago talking about how important confidence is and how the standards have dropped off, and that's what happens. We've got to get that back. We've not got the distraction now of the Champions League. Let Gio have a run at it. And listen, if I'll be the first, I'm a Gio. I wanted Gio. I wanted Gio in for the very minute, the moment his name was mentioned. I wanted Gio. I thought he was a brilliant player. I thought he was a great football brain, and I still believe that could transpire, given the right set of circumstances. If he can get a run and get some injuries back, some injured players back into the first team, you've got to give the guy a chance and get behind him and support him. That's where I am.
I think Linda wanted Pochettino for the cardboard cutout, didn't you, Linda?
Oh no, Gio's okay for the cardboard cutout. Nobody will ever replace Stevie G right enough, I suppose. But no, I agree with what the guys are saying. You know, you don't get me wrong. There's been a few times over the last few weeks, last couple of months, where when you watch them play and you're not actually looking forward to the next game, Ox, because you just want to see them playing some decent stuff. But that's part now. But they do have to perform, Ox. They do have to go out and show a bit of, urgency and a bit of tempo and a bit about them in the next 3 games. And and don't give these teams any respect. Don't sit back. Go and kill teams off and score some goals. But I'm going to contradict myself here. I still just want the 3 wins, and we'll see where we're at. Really.
Can I ask you a question, Linda?
Yes.
I promise I'll not be too hard because I know what school you're in. Right. Would you take 3 Bridgemans?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. Maybe yourself, Jeff.
I think if that genuinely does happen, Ox, I think he'll be under pressure. I think if we're getting through games and we're not putting performances in, and the team don't look as though they're putting performances in, then I think he's going to be under pressure.
Okay. I think a lot of people would take results. They would take results, Bob. Yeah, it's first and foremost. It's league. You want Saturday's game, yeah, but I get your point, Jeff, and I get your point because some people have made their mind up, yeah. All right, talking about people who's never made their mind up. I've been joined by old Davy.
Evening. There's a lot of Chuckle Brothers enjoying that one, isn't it? It's good.
David.
Oh, that's sweet.
How are you, Davy? You talking to me there, Davy?
I'm not. I just hope Big Al's not listening. No, I've been listening to the show and I know the way things have been rocking and rolling that we're criticising the manager, but I'm a great believer in when you put a team out there, you could have the greatest manager on the planet, but if they can't play, he's a no winner. It's the team that's got to win the game, not the manager. And we've not got the talent at the moment, I'm afraid, which we can see is obvious. So he's playing with the cards that he's got, and we just got to grin and bear it to maybe we can pick up on that. But it's not he can't keep blaming the manager. It's what he puts in the park that wins the games.
I think we should have enough to see off St Johnstone to start with, Jack, for that. Come on, I mean, for domestic forms, no loss.
No, it's no. I hear what you're saying, David. I guess if you're splitting the two, the Champions League campaign against the league campaign, and I'm referring as in performances more in the league, obviously in the league campaign, I'm cutting them some slack. And I think a lot of us are. The Champions League was a stretch too far, especially the teams that we pulled and that group. So from that, I'm not saying for a minute we should be going out and competing and we should be turning over Napoli and Ajax and Liverpool. I'm not saying that for a minute. I'm just saying that the performances in the league, though, have to be. I mean, he has got some cracking performances and I go back to the most recent one, Aberdeen. But the week before it against Livingston, we were honking.
Yeah, I agree with you there, but can you not see what I'm meaning is we get outplayed against a good Ajax team, and we were all loving it when we beat Aberdeen, but we beat a poor Aberdeen team. If we can take 4 after them, and then that lot can come out and take 3, it doesn't say a lot about Aberdeen, does it?
Oh, I think they know what Scottish football is, mate. You have to just look at everybody's results in Europe. You know, they've done well for a sellout Saturday and building the game up, making the game prosper.
Yeah.
They've nearly killed it, baby. Linda.
Yeah, and they have, Davy, haven't they? It's been a right wake-up call. As we said earlier, the fact that we managed to get the most coefficient points just basically sums it up for this season. But I do agree with you to a certain extent. The players have got a responsibility, because he said after the Aberdeen game that he told them to go out and play with tempo at the beginning, create chances, get players up the park. And he said that he told them the same thing the week before, and the players didn't do it. So we all started to think, well, if they actually chucked it and they're not playing for him. I suspect it's probably just a bit of a combination, Davy, of the manager and the players. They've both sets have had shockers, haven't they, really, this season? But the players, certain players just haven't turned up enough, and they need to start it, and it needs to start on Sunday.
Yeah, I agree with you, Linda, but what I'm trying to say here is, if you had Jurgen Klopp in there as a manager, do you think he could get that mob to play?
Over
do
to
you
you.
get a tune out of that team now, the way we are in the middle of that park? I don't think so.
Did you see the game on Saturday, David?
Sorry?
Did you see the game on Saturday?
Aye.
It was not a bad wee tune. I know the opposition's no.
No, I'm not meaning that. I'm talking about as present time, like the next couple of games I've got. Do you think he could turn that, like Klopp could turn that into a decent team with injuries that we've got as well? I don't think he could do it.
I'm hoping that the front three on Saturday will be the same as played last week. That's my hope, Jaffa. That'll be.
I would hope so.
And then I think he'll go with the boy Tillman again, maybe behind them. And then if Ben Davis is playing, Sands comes into midfield, and then you've got Davis, Lundstrom, and Tillman there. Sorry. Lundstrom, Sands, and Tillman in the midfield. So you've got the two sitters with energy, and then you've got Tillman hopefully getting on the ball and making things happen. And then your only change for last Saturday is Borla comes in for Yilmaz. So that would improve us for Wednesday, because we know that we needed some old heads in about the park. That would be Lundstrom comes back in, Ben Davis comes back in. It's only 2 players. It's crucial positions, Jaffa.
And I would hope that that same team with the addition of the Borna for Yilmaz would step out and put in a similar performance as far as energy levels goes and tempo ups and appetite. And if they can do that and they can go out and turn over St Johnstone, then great, brilliant. Then we're on to Wednesday night against Hearts, and then we've got St Mirren. And then the 4-week or the 4.5 week break before we take on Hibs on the 15th of December. So, it's all down to I get what you're saying, Davey, but the personnel that we've got left should be more than capable of competing in the league campaign.
Well, boys and girls, we've reached that time in the evening. Davey, I think that's a great time for you to come on. I have to look at
That's you after Christmas card and Malteser.
Don't you worry, Davey. I've been putting 10 pence a bag every week for your birthday.
It's coming up soon. It's coming up now. 74.
Ox, can I ask Davey a wee question? A wee quick question. Davey, what do you make of that Christmas cracker pack of the Maltesers?
What do you mean?
Have you seen it? Have you seen the amount of Maltesers you get in it? It's hardly worth it.
Oh no, I wouldn't get. I go for the family size.
You go for the industrial pack.
I'd rather keep them for a week than a fortnight. Great to hear from you, David.
It was a great show.
Harry, last word, quick word, mate.
Aye, brilliant show, Chair. Linda, Jaffa, Bob, Chair, and Davey, all the best, guys, right? Brilliant to be on again. I'll be on soon. No bother. Take care, guys. All the best, ease off.
Bob, Chair.
Cheers.
Thanks for having me again, Ox. As I say, it's a starting point for us. Let's go for us.
Yeah.
All the best, everybody. I'll see you later next week, probably. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Right, Bob.
Linda.
Yeah, great show, Ox. It was good being on with Jaffa and your good self, the host with the most. On to the weekend now, and as I said, I want a really good performance, but first and foremost, just get us the 3 points, and that'll do for starters.
Jaffa?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Ox, and Linda, great being on with you, and brilliant interview earlier on, Ox, with Gordon Smith. That was magic. Thanks again, Ox, for having me on Rangers Radio.
Cheers, mate. I haven't got any photographs back yet, mate. I don't think they've been developed. I don't know why, mate, but as soon as I get them, I'll send you them, yeah?
You hide them.
Listen, it was a pleasure. Can I give you a big shout out to Gordon Smith, who took the time to join us here on the Rangers Radio, and anybody that's got the inclination, please go on to the Rangers supporter Erskine appeal, and click on the link, Gordon Smith, and it's on Rangers Blue, and it's a CD, and all the money's going to Erskine, worthy cause at this time of the year. We're veterans. Thanks to Fox, Old School Blue, for doing the technicals. Linda, Jaffa for joining the show. Harry, Davey and Bob Jeff for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow night between 8 and 10 talking about all things Rangers. And I'm sure we'll have more things to talk about. Take it away, Old School Blue.
Sure, I was dreaming of old Ibrox, of her slopes and great grandstands, and I dreamed about the Rangers, the best team in the land. When my memory suggested of a vision bright and clear, of the strange things that would happen if we had the Rangers here. Now if the road to Ibrox Park way up the Shankill, and Brian Loudrup came from Sandy Road, and Alistair Toyce came from East Belfast, and old Belfast became then old Glasgow. If the Rangers met the Celtic up at Windsor, sure no green flags at that game they would appear. Ulster's sons would never roll, and all the boys would stay at home if we only had the Rangers over here. I dreamed about her Ulster men who wore the shirt of blue, Bertie Manderton, Sam English, Norrie Hamilton, McCandless too. I have dreamed of Whitey MacDonald, who came from Lisburn town, and the greatest, Billy Simpson, who never let them down. Now if the road to Ibrox Park way up the Shankill, and Brian Loudrup came from Sandy Road, when Ally McCoist came from East Belfast, and then old Belfast became old Glasgow. When the Rangers met the Celtic up at Munster, then no green flags at that game, they would appear. Ulster's sons would never roam, all the boys would stay at home. If we only had the Rangers over here, if we only had Glasgow Rangers over here.